Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so here we are with the Screencast, where I'm just going to go over the rubric and hit the highlights and explain a few things. If you still have questions after looking at this Screencast, you can let me know. I think you're probably all familiar with rubrics. Of course, a rubric like this has a dual audience. You know, I write it for myself so that when I am evaluating your memoir, I have this thing that I've written that reminds me of what I'm looking for, of what my standards and criteria are. The other audience, of course, is you. It's meant to clarify the expectations and the skills that we're working on for you. And so, you know, if you look at the rubric, it looks like a lot to read. But really the thing to focus on primarily at this point, when you're trying to understand the assignment and the expectations for it, focus on this column. Well, it's not working. Okay, this column, the for column. For is excellent, essentially. So if you read all the way down, and that's what I'm going to go over, and look at excellent or for. Okay, I'm having fun with this. You get a good sense of the expectations and requirements for the assignment. So I'll just go and touch upon each of these criteria briefly. Following an assignment. Now these first several criteria or skills that are listed are core skills that carry over into other assignments, and so they're in general terms. So following an assignment means participating in every step, writing something that fits the assignment and the expectation. So in this case, it means, of course, writing a personal memoir on the topic, addressing the audience as assigned. It means every step, you know, there will be steps where you'll help some of your classmates, give them feedback on their pre-writing, do peer reviews of drafts, and so on. Going through all of those steps is important. Purpose awareness will make more sense, I think, with some of our other assignments, but it's kind of very closely linked to audience awareness. That, in other words, the idea with purpose awareness is that if someone found, in this case, your memoir in the hallway and picked it up and started reading it, they would understand what it was. They would understand the purpose of the piece of writing that they had found. Audience awareness is similar. You know, you have a target audience. Every piece of writing has a target audience, which might be a large and various audience, or might be an audience of one person. Whoever reads a piece of writing can recognize whether it's targeted to them, whether it's written with them in mind or with someone else, and there are clues regarding that in the piece of writing. The piece of writing, you know, in terms of what's included and what is left out, that suits the audience because the audience has a certain level of knowledge of the topic. The tone, you know, some texts are written in a formal tone because of who they're written to. Some are written in a more casual tone. Word choices, and so on. Genre conventions just means, you know, the reader's expectations as to what kind of thing they're reading. So that's another core skill. Development is a core skill, so as it applies to, it does apply to every assignment. It'll apply to this assignment in the sense that, you know, it's a fully realized memoir. It's thoroughly developed. Specifics are plentiful. In this case, that means descriptive details. Individual elements, in this case paragraphs, are complete. Organization, of course, means structure, and, you know, things like intro, body, conclusion, although we don't have sort of a standard intro and conclusion on this memoir like we might with a more essayistic academic paper. But there still is a structure. It's a narrative structure, and as you saw when you read the three pieces that are in David Starkey's chapter, Life Rower and Hoyas Voladoras and Jesus Shaves, they're not necessarily chronological narratives. We'll talk more about that next week. In any case, it's a clear narrative structure. Correctness and clarity, the skill has to do with, you know, having as few errors and clarity issues, what I call clarity issues, in your memoir as possible by the time you get to the version that I'll grade. And so, that's important because those errors are distractions. If there's some sentences that are unclear for whatever reason, which sometimes just has to do with the way you're phrasing things, sometimes has to do with the way you're using a pronoun, well, those things are going to take away from your reader's understanding. And so those things are important. Okay, so it doesn't mean I'm looking for perfection, but few, if any, errors in grammar, spelling, punctuation, formatting, and documentation. Formatting and documentation will be bigger concerns with other kinds of assignments. Let's move on to assignment-specific skills. So we've covered the core skills that we'll be focusing on with every assignment. For this memoir in particular, there are certain skills that I'm evaluating. So one is narration, which relates back to organization, but it relates to other things that we'll talk about in the next couple of weeks. And it's a matter of providing a clear sequence of events that your reader can understand the relationship in time between different incidents, that you're focused on a clear, limited time frame. In other words, you're not trying to pick a few moments out of a lengthy time period of a year or something, but you're focusing mostly, at least, on something that happened over the course of a day or less than a day. I mean, think about Jesus Shaves, which covers, a 1-hour class, and really there's very little that's outside of that time frame. Description. The memoir is rich with very concrete, very relevant descriptive details, people, actions, places, objects, etc. I mean, that's how you recreate the experience for your audience. You're trying to recreate it, not just explain it, but recreate it for them so that it's playing like a film in their heads. But more than a film. So what does this word concrete mean? It doesn't mean cement. It means concrete in the sense of not abstract. Concrete in the sense of touchable, seeable, hearable, smellable, feelable in some way. So a concrete detail is an image or a smell or a sound. And David Starkey talked about that, and you saw demonstrations of that in the pieces that he included. Relevant descriptive detail. So, I mean, it's not a matter of, I'm talking about something that took place in a classroom, so I will explain every single thing in that classroom, but instead picking out a few relevant details that give a sense maybe of the atmosphere of a place or of someone's character. People, actions, places, objects. We'll come back to that in peer review. When you look at a draft, you can think, did I describe, not explain, but describe each of these aspects of the experience? It's a good way to kind of check yourself. Okay, and the last criterion on the rubric is significance. That, a memoir doesn't just tell a story like, well, here's something that happened to me, isn't this interesting? It gives a sense of what the experience meant. Not just what it meant to the writer or the person who experienced or witnessed the event, but what it means to, what significance it has for other people, why it's an important experience, particularly for the audience, of course. Below this grid rubric, there's some other stuff that relates to evaluating your sort of final draft. When I grade a draft, I'll kind of review your work and make sure you've carried out every step, and that gives you base points. I use a 100-point scale, and so your first 10 points out of those 100 are base points. So you've got those base points, but if you miss any of these steps or do poor quality work on any of these steps, you can lose a point or two. The bottom line is just a place for me to make a broad overall comment. You can see that I'll comment on each of these skills. As I evaluate a draft, I'll make a comment on each of these areas. But the bottom line gives you a place to talk broadly about the paper instead of focusing on a particular aspect. I'll put a letter grade here, and Moodle Gradebook will turn that into a number, and it will contribute to your course grade. And details of that are on the syllabus, or the supplement to the syllabus. And then this is a key. As I look at a draft, I highlight errors in yellow, and I won't identify them for you because research shows that if I just show you places where you need to correct something, you can figure out how to correct those on your own, and you might need to turn to certain resources to figure that out, but you can do it. Blue highlighting means there's some sort of clarity issue. As it says, it might be you chose a word that's not exactly fitting what you want to say, or you use the word he or they or this or that, and we can't tell exactly what it refers to, or you just have some phrasing that's awkward, or you just have sort of left out some details, or you've stated something vaguely. All those are clarity issues. If I underline the entire sentence, that means it's either a sentence fragment or some kind of run-on. So all these things, there could be a sentence that's underlined and there's a word that's highlighted in blue and another word highlighted in yellow. Hopefully that doesn't all happen in one sentence, but it's possible. And so let me look at my notes for a second, see if I've left anything out. Audience, I think, when I talked about audience, I don't know if I reminded you specifically that you're addressing first-year students in your major. And so, of course, hopefully your topic is something of interest to them. You're talking about an experience that would be relevant to them, that would teach them something about the major or about the profession. Let's see, looking at my notes, and I think I covered everything. And so, like I said, let me know if you have questions after you